What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk, the podcast where we talk about all things mental health and coping. Uh, I'm joined as always by my co-host Calvin.
How's it
Today,
going, everybody?
we're going to take a little bit of a step back. We talked about our backgrounds and things that we deal with, our illnesses, things like that we live with on a daily basis. Today, we're going to kind of again take a break from all of that and get away from some of the heaviness. We're going to talk about things that we do to cope, things that we do to escape reality for a little bit and kind of give our minds a break, and things that help us kind of carry on day to day and get away from the demons in our head, so to speak. So with that, uh first and foremost, Calvin, how you been?
Been doing pretty good. I'm finally wrapping up with school. I'm on my last week. I'm finally in that home stretch. It's been a long 8 weeks to say for sure. But it's at the end now, and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm actually pretty excited about it. Finishing up this last paper, so yeah, man, just working, finishing up this last assignment, ready to take a break and be on vacation from school for a couple months and ready to go on vacation in July and just kind of kick back and relax and have a little bit more time to relax and do stuff and not have to worry about school every day.
That's gonna be awesome and so well earned. That vacation is gonna feel great, and I know it's definitely that time of year, because I've seen posts from several people, about either finishing up school for the year, semester, or finishing up school entirely. Um, my fiance's best friend Steph, she actually just completed her nursing degree, her bachelor's degree.
Hell yeah, man.
So
Hell
she
yeah.
went through a pinning ceremony this past weekend, and like I think I think
Congratulations.
I think she had her mom like got to put her pin on her because her mom's a nurse too, so it was a pretty big deal. So super excited for everybody that's finishing school. Super excited and proud. That everybody's sticking with it, and because I know it's. I mean, I for one, like I said, I went to school for several years and bounced around and tried different programs and never really found one that stuck and that felt right. So, but for those that have found their calling and have stuck with it, it's incredible. It's amazing, like to have that and stick with it for so long. And I know it's got to feel good to finally get
And it's
some.
not so much that I found my calling quite yet. It's more so that I'm too stubborn to quit now. I mean, I've come this far, so I can't stop now. I mean, I've already
Right.
done this much, so I have to see it through to the end. But I'm hoping that I mean, I did know that when I went into this, I when I originally went back to school, I originally went back for data analyst,
Okay.
and like the first class into it, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I was dead set that I was going to get a job in IT, and this was going to be it. I was going to go into the IT field. That was going to be it. Started my first class, and I was just like, this is not what I want to do. I
This ain't
know
it.
everyone's saying I need to go into IT, but this isn't what I want to do. I want to go back into the medical field. So I sat down with my advisor and we talked, and I was like, hey, man, I know everyone's pushing towards IT, but I'm not happy. Like, I can already tell that this isn't something that I want to pursue.
Right.
So
It's
before I waste
not
a
for
lot of
me.
money and a lot of time, this isn't for me. I want to pursue something in the medical field. What can I look at in the medical field that will kind of still steer me towards kind of solving a puzzle? And he was like, well, have you thought about surgical tech? I was like, I mean, I've looked at it before. And he was like, well, if you kind of like working with your hands and you kind of like figuring things out, look into the surgical tech program. He's like, because you still basically have to figure out certain different surgeries and stuff, and you have to work closely with the surgeon and figure out their next move and anticipate what they're going to do next. And you basically have to know how to do surgery to know what the surgeon's going to need next and be ready to get it prepared for them while he's performing surgery because he can't sit there and search through tools. So you're the tool guy and you have to have everything laid out, but you have to know how to perform the surgery in order to lay everything out correctly. So, and I was like, you know what? That sounds something like something I'd be interested in. So here I am. Like, and will I be good at it? Who knows? But we're gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, you will be. I can't see you failing.
I mean, I'm at the age now where I can't fail. It's one of those ones where we have to do it. It's just failure is not an option at this point. I mean,
Yeah. No, you got
being
it.
40 years old, you just have to, you got to make it work. So a lot of people at work, they ask me all the time, they're like, man, how do you deal with work? How do you deal with doing school on top of that? I was like, you just do it. Like it's not great a lot of days and it's tough, but you just do it. Like I set a goal in mind. And even on the days where I'm just extremely exhausted and wore out, I'm just like, this is what I told myself I'm doing. So if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it for me. So I have to do it. So
Yeah. Now, I'll say it again. Like I can't tell you how proud I am of you, like going through it, and especially like at our age to be doing like that, like not only a career change, but like finishing up school for a career change. And like it's a big deal. It's massive. And so I'm proud of you for sticking with it and sticking to your gun, so to speak, and going through with it and following through. So and juggling that with school and life and everything else that that we've got going on in our heads and everything. So it's incredible.
I appreciate it,
Super,
man. It's
super, super
it's
proud
it's,
of you.
it's definitely, and I mean, it definitely ties into our topics of the coping mechanisms. I mean, it's so I mean, even on those days where it gets tough, you gotta find time to take a step back and you know find those things that help you deal with those. And one of the main ways that I found was I enjoy video games. So I mean, I don't get to play as much as I would like to. I mean, we were all younger and we used to just love video games and play them all day long. But I mean, even now, like if I can spare an hour or two here or there, I'll play during the week. But most of the time on the weekends, hey, let's get in some gaming time. We're gonna play this game, or we're gonna play that game, or I'm gonna catch up on this game. We're just gonna make it happen because you got to find that time to step back and just actually do the things you enjoy. Because otherwise, what's it all the hell for? Like, what are you doing it for if you're not gonna actually find time to sit down and enjoy life?
Right, and I'm the same way, especially with video games. I mean, I'm pretty sure you and I are going to spread some democracy tonight. So,
Oh
but
hell yeah!
but no, I'm the same way. Especially growing up as kids, we play video games for like you said, hours upon end. Like spend all weekend and not put the controller down. And obviously, like as an adult with responsibilities, you can't do that as much. So it might be getting home from work and I might do a couple races on a game, or I might do a couple of matches, or that kind of thing, or take like short little increments of gaming. And like you said, on the weekends, on at night or whatever, getting on and playing for quite some time. So it's definitely one of my big ones too. I think video games are really like one of the perfect coping mechanisms because there's just so many different genres and things that you can dive into and it's escape reality for a bit. Like if you're a car guy, if you're a racing guy, like there's so many different games for that. If you're more of like like a boxing fan or a UFC fan has like they have game fighting style games for that. Like there's something for everyone in video game. There's puzzle games.
Absolutely.
There's so many things for anybody you know to enjoy, and that's what I love about it. Especially for me, the one of the big ones is like the RPGs or like the role playing games, right? Where I get to immerse myself into a fantasy world. I get to create this character and take them through this journey, through this imaginative world and setting. And for me, like getting to kind of let some of that creative out a little bit, and like just getting to kind of mold my own story and things. It really kind of I think because you're utilizing that part of your brain and like you're focusing on something like that as opposed to focusing on your real life struggles and problems. It definitely you know it's cathartic for sure.
My really first introduction to like an RPG style type game was probably Skyrim. And it was just kind of one of those games like when it came out, I had heard people talk about it and I was just like, oh, that sounds dumb. That doesn't sound like anything I would play. Cause I was a huge like Madden guy. Like that's all I would play.
Hmm.
I would only play Madden. Like I would spend hours playing Madden all day long. And like so when people would try to tell me about these other like story driven games, I was just like, whatever. It's not really my type of game. And but then I sat down and was watching someone play Skyrim. I was like, okay, maybe I might give it a shot. And I have sunk probably over 1,000 hours into that game at
Bro,
this point.
I still play Skyrim like 15
Yeah.
whatever how many ever years later it's been out. Like like still to this day I'm still creating new characters and going through, and I'm still finding things in that world that I haven't found in other playthroughs.
Yes.
Like
It's great. Like every
I don't
time I
understand.
play a new character, I find something that I have not seen in that game. And I've played it for thousands of hours at this point.
I don't know how that's possible. Like
It's such a
what?
large
Like what?
game. It's there's so much that just there's I'm like, there's no way I haven't explored everything by now. And every time I turn it on, there's something I haven't seen before.
Yeah. No, that's one of the all times. It's yeah, it's probably the all time game at this point. Like it's
Yeah.
if it's not the all
I'm
time,
definitely
it's on the
excited to
Mount
see
Rushmore.
I'm definitely excited to see what they're gonna do with the next Elder Scrolls. Like it'll be I think they tried their best with Elder Scrolls Online. And I mean it was fun for a little bit, but I think it missed quite a few marks.
It
And I
did,
mean, I know
and
it
it
still
got
has like
repetitive.
I know it
It got
still
repetitive
has
quick.
like a loyal fan base that plays it, but it just it got repetitive. It just got boring. So to
That
see where they're gonna put the next one, I cannot wait to see how much I'm gonna sink into it.
yeah. So ESO got to the point for me where I had, and I'm sure I'm pretty far behind now because I haven't played it in forever. But at the time I was playing, I had maxed out my character level. I had maxed out my champion points. Like I'd done everything there was to do, and I had like all the gear from the dungeons and things. And I was literally just getting on with my crafter and doing my daily tasks to to get rewards for that, to level those things up, and that was it. Like I'd get on and do that and log back off. And I was like, why am I doing this? This feels like a chore, like a job. Like I don't
Yeah,
enjoy doing this. Like why? So and I'm sure if I went back to it now, that there'd be some stuff that's changed, and I'm probably pretty far behind in champion points again now, um, but I don't know if for me it's worth, going back and picking back up again to start that jog through it again. But no, I think the next Elder Scrolls game has huge, huge shoes to fill, and I'm skeptical that it's going to be able to live up to like Skyrim. If so, like if people are expecting it to be Skyrim and to like to have that level of I don't know
I,
that it's gonna
I,
get to it.
and I mean, of course, they're going to compare everything to like your Morrowind and your Skyrim.
Hmm.
That's definitely going to be the comparison. And I'm going to out myself here a little bit. I've never played Morrowind. Like
Have
it's
you not?
just I didn't know anything about these types of games until Skyrim came out. So like, and by the time I played Skyrim, trying to go like, if we're being honest,
So you didn't play Oblivion either
I
then?
I didn't play Oblivion. I didn't play Morrowind. I didn't play any of them. I didn't know anything about these games
Breaking my
until
heart.
Skyrim came out. And I don't doubt that they're fantastic games because I know how great Skyrim was.
Well, they
But
are
if we're going to be
fantastically
honest
dated
here,
now.
if we're going to be honest, trying to go back and play them now is incredibly difficult
Yes, it is.
because of where our video games are now.
They are
They
so
are
dated.
incredibly dated. So trying to go back and play those games now in today's video game world is extremely difficult because you just can't. Trying to go back and play a game that was made in the early to mid 2000s in 2024 when you're used to 2024 graphics, it's hard to do. Because I mean, even the graphics for Skyrim still hold up today.
Right. Well, and that's so we kind of talked about it a little bit before. That's why I was so excited about one of my favorite franchises in video games, Final Fantasy. You talk about Final Fantasy 7 that came out on PlayStation 1 like back in the 90s, like 90s, early 2000s. It's a very, very early game, right? So PlayStation came out with a remaster. It's like, hey, here's the game. We remastered the graphics for new consoles. So, and it was still like, even though it was remastered graphics, it was still 2D. It was still like there wasn't anything crazy about it. They just basically updated to where you could play it uh, on next gen consoles. And
Yeah,
and so I got to go through and relive that, and you know, kind of feel like a kid again. And then they're like, hey, we're gonna take this one step further, and not only are we gonna remaster it, we're gonna completely remake the game and just rebuild it, and we're gonna expand on it and explore. And now they have this 3 game project that they're doing with it, and I'm working on the second game now, and it is phenomenal. Like the graphics are
oh god.
amazing. Like it's yeah. So I know I've
Yeah,
been
if
recruit.
they were to ever like remake or even like just update the graphics on like Morrowind or Oblivion, I would definitely play them and go through the stories on them. It's just there's no way I could boot those up now
Oh yeah,
and try
no.
to play through those again. Like it's just like, and I mean they're on Game Pass, but like I downloaded Morrowind to try it, and just the graphics were just a killer for me. I was just like, I can't do this.
The only one that I'll really tolerate like old graphics with that I still play from time to time on Xbox is the Knights of the Old Republic. So I don't know if have you ever played that one, the Star Wars.
Um, I haven't played it, but I've seen some stuff about it. But I heard they were fun.
So yeah, that one's a fun one for me, and that was one of the first. Wasn't the first, but one of the first games I played where you got to actually like as you played and made choices, like you got to pick your side, like whether you're going like light side, dark side kind of deal, and those are the games I really enjoy. Like you get to go through this fantasy world and you get to make choices that impact your character and impact the world around you and stuff, and like so you can make those decisions without real world consequences, and so you kind of
Yeah,
get to live some of that out, through video games, whereas in real life, I can't go out and just, you know, punch somebody because they look like a dirt bag.
yeah,
But in video games, I can because what are they going to
yeah.
do?
I mean, in,
So
in video games, I mean, of course, you have consequences in video games, but there's always a reset button. In life, there is no reset button. I mean, like,
exactly.
and that's why we play them because I mean, there's an escape from that reality for those few minutes to a few hours that we get to play them. But
Like,
like,
and
what's your so what's your go to like just sit back, chill, and relax game?
oh, let's see. There's several. If I'm just kind of if I'm sitting back and just relaxing, I had not like wanting to like focus on anything. I'll probably do something like some type of racing game, like a Wreckfest or something like that, where I can just you're just driving a car. Like essentially, you don't have to really think about much. You just go from point A to point B, and they're short little races kind of thing. So if I don't have to be, I don't have to worry about like focusing on something for hours or playing until I find a logical stopping point. But which is a big problem with a lot of like the story based games is like you have to keep playing until you get to a point where okay, I can stop here and remember where I picked up, or where I'm picking up from. It's almost same as like reading a book, right? Like if you're reading a book, you
Yeah,
don't just you don't stop in the middle of a chapter, like like,
yeah, you
'cause
have to get
it
to the end.
right. So it's the same thing with like the story based games is like so when I play those games, it's like when I have time to you know when I have the energy to, I'll sit down and I'll play those games. But if I'm just coming home from work and I was wanting to hang out for a couple of hours, or hour or two before I go to bed, I'll put something like that on, like a Rec Fest or WWE or something where I can wrestle a couple of matches and call it a night. Um, but probably like any of those, like any of the racing or sports genres, something where I can do something pretty quick. What about you?
For me, it is. I have two of them. It's either Farming Simulator or American Truck Simulator.
Okay.
I can't explain it. I don't know why, but I got super into Farming Simulator about 2 years ago, and I before I got into it, I looked at it and I started playing it, and I was like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever played in my life. How could anyone enjoy playing this?"
I
Then
I
about
forgot about a
two
game.
days later, then
Go
about
ahead.
2 days later, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go back to this because I want to do something." And it completely took over my life. I got obsessed with Farming Simulator. I could not. I would literally come home from work. I would be thinking about farming all night long. I was like, I got to plant my crops and I got to cultivate my fields and I got to make sure my chickens are hatching their eggs and I got eggs to sell and I got to check the market prices to see what products I can sell and I got to sell this product to make this money and I got to see what tractors are on sale today. It completely took over my life. Like I would come home, I would think about farming all night, and then I would come home and play Farming Simulator for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I would go to bed and I would watch videos about Farming Simulator before I went to bed. And then I would repeat the cycle over and over. Like my girlfriend will tell you, I got obsessed with Farming Simulator for like a period of like 6 months where that's all I was doing.
It's funny that you mentioned the farming simulator and the American Truck Simulator because the two that I have that I was reminded of when you mentioned that I'm honestly kind of ashamed of. I've got the house flipping simulator where you go in and you buy these houses and paint them and decorate them and clean them up and sell them for profit and so you build this house flipping business, which is completely ridiculous. But there's a simulator for everything apparently.
But see, that
And
would be something that I would spend hours on. Like I
oh,
would
oh,
get
I
in there
do.
and I would sink hours into a game like that.
And what's even funnier about that is trying to come up with like paint and like furniture that matches and being completely colorblind. Like just having mismatched walls and like they do not look good at all. Like, oh yeah,
So
that color that color
quick
works great.
side note, since you
Oh,
brought that up,
oh,
because this is just a ignorance thing on my part because I don't know. how do you deal with playing video games being colorblind? Because I know you've told me you're colorblind, but I don't think we've talked about this before.
So most of them nowadays, especially, have colorblind modes. So you can go into
Mhm.
the graphic settings and you can change it, and it adds a color filter on top of the graphics to enhance certain colors. Based on what you can and can't see. So there's most games. Well, I say most games. A lot of games I don't necessarily need that because I've lived with being colorblind for so long that I'm just kind of used to how games look. Now, games to me, they may not look nearly as incredible as they look to you, and like people are like, oh, these graphics are incredible, amazing, and I'm like, yeah, looks fine, like looks good, But there are certain games though that I can't play at all because of my color blindness. One of them I was pretty upset about because I was so looking forward to it, and it was the Horizon series.
Oh man,
So like Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West. Um, I can't remember which one of those came out first. Was it
Zero
Zero Dawn?
Dawn.
So Zero Dawn came out. They announced it, and I'm looking at all the gameplay, and I'm like, "This looks phenomenal. I want to play this game. Like, like I'm so pumped for it, so ready for it." Bought it, got into it. 2 minutes later, turned it off. Could not play it. I could not see anything. And obviously, with direction, you've played that game, and one of the big things is like they have all like this, you're out in nature, so you have this tall grass and like trees and foliage and everything, and then they have this, I guess, a yellow line or like yellow arrows that you're supposed to follow. Like, so I could even get through the tutorial of like how to sneak around these animals, and because I couldn't see a line. Like I remember calling one of my friends at the time that was playing. She had downloaded at the same time, and I was like, I don't know like what I'm supposed to be doing here. And she's like, just follow the line. And I'm like she's like, I'm already through the tutorial and doing this and this and this. And I was like, I don't see like what are you talking about? There's no line. And yeah,
Which
because
is
I was
surprising. It's so surprising that they didn't have a colorblind mode on that
yeah.
because, like, they're such a big name studio. You would
Mhm,
think that they would have more accessibility options.
yeah. So like
Being a
I
bigger name studio,
spent $60 on the game, played it for 2 minutes, uninstalled it. Yeah. And I was so
man,
heartbroken because like I was so looking forward to playing that game, and I've heard great things about the story of it and like all of it. And
I wish you could have played it. It's one of the reasons why I even bought a PlayStation in the first place because I saw when the pre-alpha gameplay got unveiled at E3 way back when, and I was immediately hooked. I was just like, I bought a PlayStation the next day. This was a PS4 time. Uh, it was E3, maybe I want to say 2015, 2016 that it got announced,
mhm,
and I was just like, I have to play this game. I have to be
yeah,
able to play it, and the story was just fantastic. So I'm heartbroken that you didn't get to experience that. I wish you would have got it.
yeah. But yeah, most days, like I said, now they have different filters for color blind. So like I said, it puts a color filter on there so you can it definitely it mutes a lot of colors so that the colors that you can't see stand out. So it does affect some of the graphics to where they don't look as crisp and sharp as what I'm sure they look to you guys, but at least it makes it playable, so I can see what's going on, and I can play them. But um, so I have a pair of um, glasses that help me to see color like in my day to day life. Um, they're by this company called Enchroma, and I've had them for years, and like I swear by them. But they are they're more of a sunglass type. So like they're shaded, so they're meant to wear like out in sunlight kind of deal. Um, that company makes an indoor media pair like that's designed for you know TVs and computers and screens, that kind of thing. I haven't gone and invested the money into them. I probably should, because like I said, I swear by the ones I have now. Like I love them. Like they've been life changing. So I'm sure
Will your
the new
insurance cover any of that, or is that seen as something that's cosmetic?
yeah, it's cosmetic. It's definitely a luxury. So, um, but and they're not super expensive. Well, I say that. I mean, they're pricey, but they're not like break the bank kind of deal. I mean, if I say saved up for them, budgeted for them, they'd be fine. I think when I bought the original pair, they were like 5 or 600 bucks.
Which I
But
mean, it's not break the bank, but I mean that's still a
it's
lot of money to drop
yeah,
on an
it
item.
is. Yeah, it is for sure. And that's why I think I haven't gone and gotten the media pair, because I've played video games and watched TV for so long that I've kind of gotten used to how stuff looks. So I don't necessarily have to have them to play. I'm sure they would make things look that much more incredible, but is it is that to me worth, shelling out that kind of money for them? Is it going to make that big of a difference to where, you know, now saying that I probably could have played Horizon, but
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, I completely get it. I mean, it's one of those things where we walk that balancing act of, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, we've talked about stuff like this when we've gone to the gun range, like another
mhm,
one of our coping mechanisms. I mean, it's we see a new gun that we like, and it's fun to shoot, and it looks
mhm,
badass, but do we really want to drop 700-800 bucks at one time on
mhm,
one thing? Like
and
it's just
then
it's kind of
shoot all.
hard to justify going to do that. Like, even though we know we're going to enjoy it, we know
Mhm,
we're going to get some use out of it, we know we're going to have fun with it, and it's something we want,
yeah,
but do we really just want to drop 700 bucks at one time?
exactly. No, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I said, and to this point so far, like playing video games and watching TV, like throughout my life, like has been fine. So I don't know that there's as much value added there as what I would be paying for them. So, and that's why I've kind of held off, and I may eventually pick up a pair. But for me, as of right now, I haven't felt the need to, and like I said, I haven't really seen the as much of the value added to it. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I deal with the video games and color blindness, is just most of them have a filter nowadays, and then
That's
the
pretty
the ones
cool,
the
man.
ones that don't, I just, I've kind of gotten used to how they look. So, but
So
so
speaking of video games that deal with, like, not necessarily disabilities, but I wouldn't. Would color blindness be considered a disability? I don't want to classify it the wrong way or offend people.
I would say so. I don't know if it's technically, but yeah, it's definitely. Uh, I mean,
So,
I don't know about classifying. I'm not offended by calling it a disability. I don't know if somebody with like, like physical handicaps would be just, but no,
but
I think it is.
in that same vein of video games that deal with stuff like that, or having to navigate video games, there is a video game, and you may have heard of it on Xbox, called Hellblade,
Hmm. Heard of it.
and it was made by this company, Ninja Theory, and they actually made that game with the input of people that deal with psychosis. And like, they actually sat down and did focus groups with these people to understand what it was like to live with psychosis and how they deal with their lives. And they took all of their feedback and like how they navigate their lives and what it's like to actually deal with the symptoms of it and like the struggles of it, and they incorporated that into the main character of the video game.
Oh wow.
So while you're playing the game, the main character has psychosis, and you get to experience what it's like for her as she's going through this story.
Oh wow,
The sequel to that comes out next month, and I cannot wait.
I'll check that out. That sounds pretty intriguing.
It's a pretty short game. I
Hmm.
think it's maybe less than 20 hours.
Okay.
It may be between 10 and 20 hours long. So it's relatively short, but I would recommend playing it with headphones.
Okay.
But it is a very intense experience. Like I could only play it at like for an hour at a time, just because like as you're going through the levels and stuff, you hear voices all around you, but it's all in the character's head. So it's like you're experiencing her psychosis as it's happening.
Oh wow.
And the more you die in the game, the further into psychosis she goes. So you
Oh
start to
wow.
hear more and see more. And it gets pretty gnarly. And I
That
was
would
just
be
like,
that would be a
this
trip.
this is one of the trippiest games I've ever played.
I will
So
have to
if
look
you
that up
get a
and check it
chance to
out.
check it out, it's on Xbox Game Pass. It's called Hellblade.
Okay.
It's one of the best story games I've played, and it's the gameplay is not like super groundbreaking. It's pretty simple to figure out,
Okay.
but just the story of what she's going through and dealing with the psychosis and trying to figure out what happened to her and her husband, and like navigating all of that through the lens of having psychosis was crazy.
Sounds like it. So, with the interest of not having this episode run 2.5 hours, because I mean, I could talk about video games for days upon end. Um, there are definitely a couple of things I wanted to touch on, coping wise. Um, I think because I wanted to touch on music, but I think we might save that one for another episode and just have just a music episode where we just because there are so many bands and genres and things that we could dive into and talk about and maybe even sample a little bit on the podcast. But um, there's one other coping mechanisms I wanted to let you know about, and it's a big one for me and has helped me immensely. And you're gonna laugh when I say this, but probably one of the biggest ones for me outside of video games is Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey,
And
look, you got me into it.
so, and speaking of getting you into it, so once why when I describe like why it's such a coping mechanism for me, like your head's gonna explode, right? So obviously, like living with mental illness, you have all these things going on in your head at one time, right? Like you've got all these different demons battling each other, and this internal struggles, and so we're just trying to find a way to cope with it, live with it, and get better every day, right? We talked about that, every episode so far. Like this is what our project is about is healing, right? So part of coping with that, when I got introduced into Dungeons and Dragons and started playing, and now as a DM or dungeon master, game master, whatever you want to call it, the thing that I get out of that so much is that all of those demons in my head, I get to now play with on in a virtual space. Again, kind of with the no consequences kind of deal, right? So I can like, if I'm feeling all of this rage, right, or if I'm angry for whatever reason, I can put that into the game. Whether it be a big bad, evil boss or something like that. And even with like
Or
carry
like
like
when you turn your new
as
player into a werewolf on the first session.
we won't talk about that. But like as a player, kind of same thing as like playing the RPGs, right? You get to create this whole character, and you get to know you get to have all the say as far as like their flaws, their ideals, their bonds, things that matter to them, and their values and all that, right? So as a DM, I get to take that one step further, and I can tell you this now since we haven't played a game with each other for a while, but every NPC that you've ever met in one of my games has been a partial reflection of me and who I am. Like, I
That's
get
pretty cool.
I get to put all that into a game and, like, so, like, you have, like, the anxious shopkeeper, like, just trying to, like, make a buck and, you know, and thrive, and then you have the, the morally corrupt kind of person that, like, or, like, the moral dilemma kinda thing, like, would you steal a loaf of bread to feed your family kinda deal, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, so if you remember, the gentleman NPC, right? The guy that, that gave you the notes and, like, you gotta, if you wanna be allowed to, like, in this city and you wanna be allowed to live and whatnot, if you don't want us chasing you down forever, you have to do this bad evil thing for us.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember
So,
that.
I figured you might. But no, so, like, it's again, it's therapeutic to be able to, like, just like, you can take all that and you can express those emotions and those feelings through those characters and work through some of that and it not be a direct reflection of you, right? So it's not like I don't have to open up and tell everybody that, this is what I'm struggling with, especially, if you're playing a game with friends, and we talked about how guys don't always open up to each other and talk about things, right? So
Yeah.
I couldn't necessarily go to all my buddies and be like, hey, I'm struggling mentally or whatever, or I have this going on, or I'm fighting with this. But at next week's D&D session, I could throw a character in there that has those same emotions, has those same thoughts, has that same battle going on, and I can work through that and get my friends' reactions in game, and you know, and and work through it that way. So that to me,
That's a pretty good way to be able to work through stuff, though. I mean, because you can kind of, without having to really put yourself out there, you can kind of like just throw this idea out there and like see how people would react to it and kind of get some feedback for yourself without anyone knowing that, hey,
mhm,
this is really me we're talking about here, and you guys
right,
are helping me. But they're thinking they're just playing a game and helping this character,
right.
but they're really helping you out.
Yeah, you come across this helpless NPC that's like on their last legs and like look, reaching for a hand to save them kind of deal, and like I do that, and it's kind of what helped me to finally start opening up and really talking about things, even like before the podcast, right? So like even like me and you talking, and when we became friends and stuff, and people in my life, because for a long time I kept everything bottled in and like just refused to tell anybody anything was wrong. But going through and playing D&D like that, and kind of letting some of that out through character, and seeing that players were reacting like, "Oh, we gotta do what we can. Like this guy is struggling. Like this guy, like if we don't help him, like it's not gonna be good. Like we got to help this guy and figure it out." And so that's for me. To me, it was kind of a relief to to kind of hear that and be like, okay, it's like, because I know when you build a character in D&D, and you can create a good character, a bad character, neutral character, uh, and so you can make this character to be whatever you want. 9 times out of 10, the people playing, even if you like, let's say I make an evil character, and my character is supposed to be evil. 9 times out of 10, when I'm playing, a lot of my true personality and reflection still comes out in that character. So while I may be playing a bad character, like I'm a good person at heart. So I'm like I still end up tending to wanting to help and wanting to do the right thing and that kind of thing.
It
So
happens every time. It happens every time.
so so I know as a DM when I'm playing and I hear those reactions, those are genuine. Like when you hear someone say, "Hey, this person's struggling. We have to do what we can to help them." Like that's a genuine reaction that someone's giving, and not just like in character kind of thing where they're like, okay, well we have to do this to advance the story kind of deal. It's like no, like no. they're saying that because if they ran into that situation in real life, they're probably going to do the same thing. And so for me, like it was kind of a relief to hear that and encouraged me to really start opening up more and being more honest. And then years down the road, here we are with a podcast, kind of sharing that with everybody else and encouraging everybody else
And I
to
mean
do the
that
same.
that was what I discovered about D&D from playing with you guys. It was like I've always had the notion that people would play these like fantastic. They would sit down at this table and play these fantastical characters and just get over the top and
Hmm.
just get super into character and like just let themselves go and do these things. But when I sat down with you guys and played for the first time, I'm like, this is really who they write down these characters on these sheets, but when they play the game, this is who these people actually are. Like, and you can see it like even in the way their characters interact. Like
Hmm.
take for instance Clayton. Sometimes like he would play his certain characters and he would always play a certain way, but
Hmm.
you kind of get the sense that if we were really in a situation like that, Clayton would actually do that. Like he would actually like, hey,
Yeah, it would.
I need to do this because this is what should be done in this situation. Like, and it's just that's just the type you can see how like even with the characters that these people make up, their personalities still come through no matter the type of characters that they try to make. So I think for everyone, whether they know it or not, it is a form of opening up, like whether they want to or not, because you just can't really help it, can you?
And that's part of the reason why, like, I throw so much of the moral dilemma stuff in there, and I throw like all these things, like these conflicting things, like to gauge reactions and then see like how people will respond in that situation, right? Like yours, where you had to frame somebody for you know for the better good and that kind of deal, or um, like, are you really gonna go through with doing this, or are you gonna try to find a way to so to have all those different things and seeing how people react, and like I said, and like you said, it was just like it's really an extension of yourself in a lot of ways. Even though, like you said, it's supposed to be these completely made up creations, and I think that's like you said, when you talked about how you thought it was going to be all this over the top thing. And I think when you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, people have that same kind of thing, that same kind of thought, where it's just, a bunch of nerds with glasses sitting around with dice and like doing math and numbers and things, and it's so much more than that. It, like I said, it's been a game changer for me. Like I said, being able to, because I'm not super creative, like artistic wise, but like, and I'm not like a voice person, so I don't have like a million voices to do for my characters and that kind of thing. But being able to sit down and put some of my traumas and some of my feelings and demons, things that I struggle with, into these characters and build these guys out and put them into a world to where other people can encounter them. For me, it's really a safe space, right? So like I can do that without risk of feeling judged or feeling looked down on or any of that for having those, because my players think they're just encountering, a character in a game. They think, okay, well, this is just another piece of a puzzle that we have to get through to go through our campaign and fight the big bad evil guy, and they go through all that not knowing that these are pieces of me that you're encountering, and getting the way that they react to them. Like I said, it really is. It's definitely been healing for sure.
And that's amazing. I mean, because you get to work through your own things, like, and you don't have to expose too much of yourself that you don't want to. And sometimes like exposing yourself like that to people can make, unfortunately, it can make some people uncomfortable,
Hmm.
like just opening up like that, because some people just truly don't know how to handle it in the given situation. So it's cool to be able to express yourself that way and be able to work through things with that creative outlet and be able to tell a story for other people, but make it so that you're getting feedback for your own life and your own trauma and you're dealing with certain things, but for everyone
Free
else,
therapy.
it's just a story for them.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Free
free
therapy.
therapy.
It's free real estate.
So, but with that, I think that's probably going to do it for this episode. I said there's a lot more we can touch on, and we can definitely revisit coping, and we can add to it. There's probably end up being a multi-part series on the podcast as far as coping goes, because there's so many different things that we can, like music and movies and TV shows and things like that. There's so many things that we can get into that help us cope and help us kind of unwind and relax and just escape reality for a little bit. But I think this is definitely a good start, a good topic starter, good introduction to the series. So with that, I think we will call it a night.
I got a question for you guys down in the comments. Let us know what your favorite comfort band is, your comfort movie, your comfort video game. If you made it this far, let us know those things down in the comments. Let us know what those three things are for you in particular.
There we go. Let us know in the comments, and let's talk about it. We'll see you guys.
Have a good one.